Welcome back to the Algorithm of Love. I'm here with Amber as always.
Hey
And
guys.
what are we talking about today, Amber?
Last week we talked a lot about our dating profile, right? So we used a buzzword, and that buzzword is intentional, right? So I think we need to look at what it means to be intentional with your dating. So, what is intentional dating?
It is quite the buzzword, that's for sure. I hear it all the time, but what does it mean? I guess it means different things to different people. But my definition of being intentional in dating would be knowing what you're having an idea of what you're after,
Yep.
what's your end goal, what kind of person are you looking for. I would say it's dating because you want to date, not because you're bored or because you're lonely or you're trying to make yourself feel better. um, I think it's just having a direction and knowing what you're going after, and you're not out to waste your time. You're not out to waste other people's time.
Right.
If you meet somebody you hit it off with, you're emotionally mature enough to give them some kind of clue that you're interested, not playing games. And I think that if you meet with somebody and you end up not being interested, then it's just being gracious and giving them a cordial thanks, but no thanks. Good to meet you. I guess off the top of my head, that would be pretty much what it means for me. Do you have
Yeah.
anything to add?
Well, very often on the app, I will see I'm looking for friendship, something casual, a long term relationship, or marriage. So
Mm,
I don't understand how someone, to me, that person is just going for whatever. Like I'm throwing spaghetti on the wall and I hope it sticks. So I don't understand how you could be in the right frame of mind or at this phase in your life where any of those things are on the table for you. I think deep down you should have some sort of purpose
mm,
on where this is really going. So I know what I'm looking for, what's going to align with my life right now, and what does not align with my life right now. And if I'm looking for a long term partner, if I am looking for a long term relationship, then this guy that's just looking for something very casual and is upfront about that, we might have some great chemistry, but we're probably not going to make it very far.
and if you're after something casual, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you say that and state that, that's fine.
Right.
But it's if somebody puts everything from something casual all the way up to marriage, it's kind of obvious that, like you said, they're just out for whatever sticks. And I think that it comes across to other people that you're not out there. Yeah, maybe you don't know what you're looking for, but it's clear that you're just out to get whatever kind of action you can get in any kind of way you can get it. And it's just not a good way to go about it, I don't think.
Listen, I'm not necessarily saying that we have to rush everything. So a relationship doesn't need to be rushed. We do need to start as friends. We do need to then come into establishing exclusivity and then build a long term relationship. But I think that so often when we feel one way, we are steady swiping on people based on chemistry that do not align with what our end goal is. And I think what we need to figure out is when is it right to start talking about that, right? Because I want to be intentional
Mm-hmm.
with the things that I say to you and the way that I message with you. But what exactly does that really look like? For instance, if somebody asks you what you're looking for, and even after 6 months, you say, I'm just kind of seeing where this goes. That's how situationships begin. And you know my status on situationships. I've been in too many of them. Things were not defined. We did not, um, we did not set parameters around what we were and what we weren't.
Right.
And quite honestly, it creates confusion when there isn't limits defined, things are not clarified, and there is nothing wrong with asking some of those intentional questions up front. It's really not because I want to put pressure on you or I want to sink my claws into you. It's I really just need to know where you are. Where are you coming from? What is your emotional maturity? How about that?
I think that sometimes people get caught up in the trap of the good enough for right now, and it's even though let's say you meet somebody that you know is not going to be suitable for you long term, or somebody you'd be interested in staying with for a long time, but you've been by yourself for a while, you've got somebody to hang out with, and go grab dinner, all the things. It's easy to get into that just to have somebody around,
Yeah.
especially if you've been by yourself for a long time,
Yeah.
or there's a lot of people that just don't want to be alone, that aren't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of those areas where people fall into these kinds of things. And something else, another point that I want to make, and this is really something that's really, really hard for people to accept and understand, but it is absolutely true. And that is your willingness to put up with things that you wouldn't normally put up with, or that you don't necessarily like, is directly related to how attractive that person is to you. So
yes, that's very true.
I'll give you an example. And I have seen this, and the women can confirm this. If a man approaches you that you do not find attractive and tries to say hello or ask for your phone number, you might be annoyed or offended. If you are attracted to him and everything is the same, all the same circumstances, same exact words, you will not be annoyed or offended. And so I think I think that is one of the things that gets so many people into trouble, is you see somebody or you meet somebody that just rings your bell, man. It's just all the synapses are firing and your heart's fluttering a little bit. And when that happens, it is so easy and it's natural for all of our boundaries and all of our must haves and must not haves. We kind of start pushing that. We soften our boundaries. We start softening what we're willing to put up with. And it's because of that extreme level of attraction. So when you meet somebody that you're very physically attracted to, you really have got to pay attention to how you interact with that person and make sure that you are keeping to your boundaries.
If a hot guy is wrong for me, there was a time that I would continue to entertain
Sure.
him or entertain his messages because
we're all susceptible to it.
Yeah, we are susceptible to it. But I think, how do we show intent without coming across overly aggressive? I think it starts with asking questions early. But how do we do that as we're meeting people on the app? Because we want to weed things out.
Mm-hmm.
We want to weed people out that are not, that don't share our same value. How do you get to know someone with intention in your mind? What does that look like?
First, everything needs to be done in its appropriate timing.
Okay.
So everything, there are no hard, fast rules for when to ask for the date, when to do this, when to do that. It all depends on the person and the situation and the dynamic between you. One of the things that I see so often in talking to people, especially about their dating profiles and getting matches or not getting matches, is people usually move way too fast. They put the cart before the horse. And I don't even necessarily mean they move too fast as far as developing a relationship or being intimate. I mean in becoming invested in the conversation. And you can't even call it a relationship. Being invested in this stranger on the internet is what it is. Mm-hmm. So imagine meetings or starting a conversation with a stranger on the internet, and with a 1, 2, 3 days in, your day can be ruined or your mood can be over the moon because this person did or did not text you. Yeah. Right. So I think that part of it is you have to be, going back to our last episode about making sure you're in the right shape to be dating, is you have to have some level of self-assuredness and faith in where you are in your life, that you don't need validation from somebody else. In other words, if you're out there looking for somebody else to make you happy and your whole world revolves around finding a date or a partner, then you're in trouble from the start, because that comes across as thirsty. And that is the biggest thing that people fall into, the biggest trap that I see a lot of people fall into, especially people that are prone to that, they get wear their heart on their sleeve. And so you have to be appropriate with the timing on all of that. And everything really is about timing. It's about pacing and communication. It is taking things as they come, and you're learning about the other person as you go, right? You can't. I remember when I first started doing online dating, and this was before I was married. It wasn't anything like it is now, but there was OkCupid and some Match.com, and I can remember thinking, how do I try to convey everything there is about me in this profile and you're not supposed to convey everything there is about you in your profile. You're supposed to convey the biggest the highlights, so to speak, to get this person interested enough to find out more about you. And I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago, and the woman said the first date, the only purpose of a first date is to find out if you want a second date or not.
Yes.
And people get a first date and they put so much pressure on it, and so
Right.
much they let their happiness or their mood rely on the outcome of that, and people get too, I think people do get too involved too soon. And so being intentional is taking things slowly and at the appropriate pace, but also obviously you're not trying to mislead people, you're not being dishonest, and hopefully we can eliminate that whole section of people out of the conversation and assume that we're talking about normal, decent, ethical people, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I want to kind of go back and touch on some person, forever after. We just need to get through those first few dates. We need to get through those first few conversations. But I will say, instead of worrying about like the fear of missing out, we should look more into just being okay with where we are in the moment. I'm okay if
Right.
I didn't hear from you today. But if I know that you're the kind of guy that is usually pretty much on, that's where we start getting things awry, is when I know that we're texting. And I mean, I dated a guy that worked in a hospital, right? So like there were times that I knew that he was not going to be able to text me. But then there are also times that, for the most part, if you want to text someone, you probably can. So,
can I just say that I've never dated anybody in the medical industry, so I don't know anything about that.
well, I mean, if you're dating a cardiovascular surgeon,
I was kidding.
what does that mean?
That means that most of my exes are nurses.
Oh, I was going to say, wasn't your wife a doctor or a nurse practitioner?
She was a Dr. Light.
She was a doctor.
Dr. Light, yeah, nurse practitioner. I really should stay away from the medical profession.
I don't know. My dad was a nurse, so
I want to touch on something you talked about a minute ago. Talking about whether if the person texts you back or doesn't text you back when within your expectation. Listen, it's okay to be happy when you get the text. It's okay to smile and enjoy the moment. It's okay to be a little bit disappointed if the night comes to an end and you didn't get the text for about 10 seconds. And then you move on with your life.
And then you move on.
You don't let it. I have talked to people that have had their entire week ruined because somebody didn't text them back on the fourth or fifth message ever. Yeah. And I can't understand that. It's so hard for me to comprehend, but there are a lot of people out there that are like that, and it's just not healthy for anybody. And the other thing too is you will run somebody off so fast by being too eager, too aggressive. And I am not talking about playing games. I'm not talking about holding back. I just mean, have you ever given somebody your phone number, let's say on a Friday night, and at 9:30 on Saturday morning, you wake up and you've already got 7 texts from them?
Yes.
And at 11, they're texting you wanting to know why you haven't replied, and they're telling you their life story, and they're in love with you already. That's what I'm talking about. Now, and obviously that is a over the top, right, hyperbolic example, but the point remains. And I've had that happen. And listen, early in my dating, pre-marriage years ago, I did some of that myself.
I've been the back-to-back texter.
And when you start to receive that and recognize it, that's when you realize just how bad it is from the other side. But people will argue and they'll say, well, people should communicate with me on my terms. And I've had women argue with me. I've had women get very angry with me that I didn't text them back within an hour and then lecture me on why I should have texted them back. And I'm going, hey, if I'm going around a curve on a motorcycle, or if I'm at work or whatever, I'm not dropping what I'm doing. It's not an emergency, so don't treat it like one.
Right. So instead of boxing ourselves into, I need to have someone that make six figures. He needs to have a college degree. He needs to be this, this, and this. We need to spend a little bit more time on some of the other things like emotional maturity. One of the things we just said is communication style, because that is such a big one. If I'm affectionate and he's not affectionate, if I'm this and he's not that, I mean, there's just certain things where this is just necessarily not going to work. And we really, how do we get into stuff that has some depth? Because I think the stuff where the depth comes in is where we're either going to make it or we're not. We're not going to make it based on chemistry solely. We have to have some depth, and that's where intention starts.
Having been in the wedding industry for many, many, many years, I used to say that I would meet couples where it was clear to me that they had put far more thought and planning into the wedding than they ever had the marriage.
The marriage, yeah.
And that to me is a great analogy for this, because I see this all the time. And hell, I've done it. You've done it. We all do it. But it is, we can make such a big deal out of such a small thing while absolutely overlooking. We're worried about whether or not we're taking a multivitamin when we've got half of our arm hanging off. An example would be dating a person who's married, and you're talking about how they aren't emotionally available or they don't communicate, is something like that.
Yeah.
So we need to focus on the big problem. And you want to know why you're not fulfilled in your relationship when you're dating somebody that's married, or somebody that, obviously only comes around when the other thing doesn't work out. And people do this all the time too.
Do.
They put up with people who will keep them as a backup.
Right.
And a lot of times they'll say they don't know, but they do. They know. It's really hard for me to understand putting emphasis on small personality traits and small insignificant things while just ignoring such egregious problems, things that know will be a problem, or that will prevent you from having a relationship with this person.
Right. Well, you and I have talked a little bit about, there are non-negotiables, and there are things that we're willing to compromise on. And then there are like, it would be great if I could have this too. So your non-negotiables, I think, are things that allow you to be intentional, right? So these are the things that are going to directly impact whether I can respect this person, whether I can feel like this person is stable, emotionally stable. For me, you and I have talked about this. I will never date someone that's not an active parent, a very involved father. That is just not something that I can deal with.
Right.
But there are specific things that go far beyond the tall, dark, and handsome, the educated. I really don't care if someone was an attorney. I don't care if someone is in the medical field. I don't care if I have a blue collar guy, because I could make it work, right, with any of those. And any of those guys might be my guy. But how is he? Is he funny? Do we share the same life goals? He could be Catholic. I can be Christian. He could be agnostic. But can we handle conflict the right way? How do we communicate with each other? How do we laugh together? It isn't about whether we like the same shows. That's not intention. It's something that is really going to impact whether somebody can actually build a healthy relationship with me.
It never ceases to amaze me how many people who don't think about those kinds of things. It's just, these days, it just seems all about the vibe. And vibe is such an interesting word, because it means so much, but at the same time, it doesn't mean anything. What is the vibe?
What's the vibe?
It's one of those words, you can morph it into whatever you want it to be. So what it is it allows me to feel okay about this right now, even knowing that I'm violating some of my own standards, principles, rules, whatever. But you talking about the differences between how well do they communicate, I thought it would probably be a good idea for us to lay out what are some of the qualities that we all should be looking for. And there was a poll done, and this is the top 6 traits rated by men and women, and what makes a relationship sustainable, and enjoyable.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Number 1 is high emotional intelligence. Healthy partners possess the ability to recognize, understand, and manage their own emotions, as well as empathize with their partners. That means considering somebody else's perspective. This prevents minor disagreements from escalating into destructive conflicts because they can identify when they are becoming triggered or defensive.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
emotional intelligence is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but to me, that pretty well spells out what it means.
It does spell out what it means. And yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I think emotional intelligence, you and I were looking at a profile or a post in where the lady came across about how intentional she was being with who she was looking for. And she came across hyper independent,
Mm-hmm.
and the signals that she was sending were just very off-putting, even to me as an independent woman. So that emotional intelligence is such a big piece because a lot of times we are not in tune with ourselves. We've already talked about healing before dating, but emotional intelligence is a huge buzzword. But if we're not making a bigger effort to become more settled and centered with ourselves, we are going to come across passive aggressive and defensive and some of those things that you just said.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really good one. And I'm glad that's the first one.
A really quick, easy definition that I use is emotional intelligence is the ability to consider other people's perspectives,
Sure.
not just your own. It's also the ability to consider your own thoughts and your own opinions and question them. It doesn't mean you have to stop believing, but it means that you're open to hearing new evidence. And you're open to hearing a different perspective and considering. You may decide that, no, I was right to start with. I do that all the time. But you're willing to listen and consider. Number 2 is radical accountability. And I think that this one is I think that radical accountability is one of the most important things you can have in your life, period.
Okay.
And a theme that I have read this in so many of the books that I've read, and I have seen this over for as long as I can remember. And it is the idea that there are people who will take responsibility more or less for their lives, their actions, their situations, and they deal accordingly. Then there are people who never, ever will do that. Everything is always going to be the economy, the circumstances, my ex, my mom, whatever. They never take any kind of accountability. And I think that that is one of the most important things that determines whether you will ever reach any kind of contentment or happiness in this life. Because if you never take accountability, then you are completely out of control. You have no control over your own life because everything that does or does not happen to you is somebody else's fault. If I take accountability and responsibility, then that gives me the power to make things better. So I think that that is so in life, and then certainly in a relationship. And so, well, now that I've defined it my way, I'll see what the book says. Radical accountability. Instead of blaming the algorithm or their partner for relationship friction, these individuals take ownership of their mistakes. They don't just apologize. They actively change the behavior that caused the issue, demonstrating they value the relationship more than their own ego. And I'm just going to say this. Don't like to talk about my ex, but one of the things she loved to do was tell me that I needed to have forgiveness in my heart and I needed to forgive and forget for things that happen daily. Mm-hmm. So if you do this, if I came home and smacked you every day, but said, I want you to forgive me, that doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for you. So
certainly doesn't work for me. The radical accountability is such a big factor because a lot of times we don't know what we should be holding ourselves more accountable for. Like I'm blind to it. I'm blind that this thing that I always do that's causing me problems, that's causing me friction is a big deal. But sometimes the person that I spend the most time with, the person that cares about me, right? If I'm in a relationship with someone, then they obviously care about me. Then they should be holding me accountable, and I should also be holding myself accountable. So I love accountability. I'm glad that one was second. I think that's a big one.
And you have to be willing. You cannot be one of these people who can never take any kind of
for sure
criticism, no matter how well it's delivered, how gracefully and kind the delivery is. You have to be able to, because if you and I are going to be in a relationship, if we want to make each other better, I mean, to me, that's one of the one of the most positive things about being in a romantic relationship with somebody is you balance each other out, because chances are you're going to be a little better at this thing and I'm going to be a little better at this. And that's it. So you have to be able to you have to be able to uh, accept and receive the compounding benefits of the two of you together.
Yes.
So the third one is the ability to practice active repair. No couple avoids conflict, but healthy partners are experts at repair. They know how to de-escalate tension. They use humor to bridge a gap or offer a sincere, non-defensive apology to reconnect quickly after a misunderstanding. And I can't agree more. And I think that what this is we both give each other the benefit of the doubt, and let's all work to resolve the issue. Not when you get into resentment and revenge and all of that kind of stuff, dismissal, there's so many deep problems in the relationship once you get to that point. But if you can be like this, and it's not about whether you disagree, it's how do you disagree? How fast do you get over it? These things really matter in a relationship. God, if you've ever been married, do you know that?
Well, I think the de-escalation is a big one. And sometimes de-escalating something that happens, if we have an argument tonight, sometimes we cannot de-escalate this tonight. Sometimes we just cannot necessarily get there. But if you do something tonight and we don't de-escalate the situation eventually the next morning, or maybe it's Saturday when neither one of us are working, we don't take time to revisit it, hash it out, then if I shove it down, right, which I've done and you've done, we've talked about this.
Sure.
If it's going to come up again, and oftentimes it's going to come up again, and the next time we have a little small incident, and then I'm blowing up about something because of something that I really was still, I didn't take the time to de-escalate with you, from 3 weeks ago. And
right.
the long version of that is I'm carrying stuff around. Maybe someone cheated and we don't de-escalate it, or maybe someone lied about finances, or just big things. Maybe there's a family situation going on. If we don't take time to de-escalate situations as they come up, then we carry it around, and usually it snowballs.
It does. It's anything that is not dealt with is not going to just go away by itself. It's unless it's some minor insignificant thing, I mean, but I didn't tell you you were pretty yesterday and you thought I should have. I mean, that'll go away eventually. I know I should have, and I usually do. You look very nice today, Amber, by the way.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's you have to deal with it. It's not going to just go away. It's going to fester.
It is going to fester. All right. Number 4, where are we at?
Number 4 is shared values, not just interests. While common hobbies are fun, they aren't what sustain a relationship long term.
Sports. Maybe you like, I don't know what it is, but you have to have your thing and I have to have my thing. And at the end of the night, the end of the day, on the weekend, we can come together and talk about your thing or mine. And we should, right? Because even if I hate golf, I still need to care enough about what your golf game was like. But I cannot stand this. I need to be with you every moment of every second of every day. I know someone very close to me who used to literally go to work with her husband, and I was just beside myself. Like, how is this? Like, get over yourself.
It just screams unhealthy to me.
It screams it. It's like, what part of this even makes you feel like it's okay?
Yeah. Are you that afraid of life in the world that you can't even function
you don't have a life?
Adult?
I don't have a life outside of you, and that's never going to work.
I don't have a life outside of you, so therefore I don't want you to have a life outside of me. I ran into this. It's like, just because if I have friends and I have hobbies, let's say I spend one Saturday a month off with my buddies and you never go anywhere or do anything, it's not my fault that you don't have any friends or don't have any hobbies. If you'd rather, watch TV or sleep all of your free time away, that has nothing to do with me. I'm not going to let you make me feel bad, and vice versa, right? I think that allowing people to be themselves, as long as what they're doing is not directly hurting you. And I'll give you one of the things that always blows my mind. This is such a paradox, and I have seen this exact situation play out. The example is husband and wife, married for 20 years, kids, all that. The wife makes comments, complains, whatever, is unhappy that the husband has gotten a little belly, he's gotten a little fat, a little flabby. Okay, husband starts going to the gym, finds
Mm.
out he really enjoys it.
Mm.
Not going to the gym every
Mm.
day. Let's say he's going 3 days a week and he's spending 2 hours at the gym. 6 months in, now husband is selfish and has a gym addiction and he doesn't want to pay. And that's the narrative. Well, you were unhappy and wanted me to go to the gym. So now I'm doing that and I'm invested in it. And now I'm a bad person for that.
Well,
You can't be like that. And give me the female equivalent of that. I'm sure there is one, whatever it is. Well, same thing, woman in the gym. And now the husband's, oh, let's say that I complain that hey, honey, you've gained a few pounds. So you start going to the gym. 6 months in, I can't say, you going to the gym so you can catch you another man. No, asshole, I'm going because you told me I was getting fat. You can't have it both ways.
you can't have it both ways. And I don't think that's really going back. That should never happen. Even if you do get to the place where you love working out and it's something that becomes very, very important to you. And now you're starting to see it. And, oh, I can see that my triceps are, really, it still shouldn't be something that you become
Obsessed.
It shouldn't be something
It
that you
can become an
obsessed.
obsession. If it's not an obsession, then it's not a problem. The upshot, I think, here is that we all need to be well-rounded people, and we all need to have something going on in our lives other than our partner, our spouse, our girlfriend, boyfriend. Because anytime, if you are all I have to worry about, and you are all I have to think about, and I am pinning all of my hopes, my dreams, my happiness on you, that is a burden that you never asked for. It's one you don't deserve to carry, and it's certainly not healthy for either one of us. I just don't. It's important to be in an individual and to continue on with the personal growth, because we all need to be growing in our relationship, but still as individual people. Even if we end up living the rest of our lives together, and we all hope that's the goal, right? Most of the time, until we don't, we should still be growing as individuals, because that makes us better as individuals, and it makes our relationship better. And I just can't imagine why anybody would not agree with that, or not. I can't imagine why anybody would not want to just make things the best they can make them.
Well, that's now we're too intentional, right? If my whole life revolves around you, then I'm being super.
Well, that's where you said earlier, well, intentional does not mean intense, and I think that is exactly where we cross from intentional to intense, is when you're going overboard. You're doing too much, as the kids say.
You're doing the most.
The most.
You're doing the most.
Take things slow, take things as they come, and just let the situation develop as it develops. Don't put any pressure. Don't put any, what's the word?
Expectations.
Don't put so many expectations on anything. Just take it a day at a time and see where it goes.
Take it a day at a time and see where it goes. But I also think that don't entertain the types of relationships that don't fit your life and your values. That's where intention goes.
Will keep you out of trouble. I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you next time.
See you later.